Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me. My name is Grandmaster Rod Batiste, and I'm the owner and director of WCRB Karate. I'm also a former middleweight champion of the world in full contact karate and an 8th degree black belt. Now, personally, I have trained over 500 people to the level of black belt, and you can be one of them. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button at the end of this tape. Today I wanted to talk to you about the karate punch, why it has stood the test of time, and why, if you do it right, it can give you the power of someone 3 times larger than you are. But first, let's talk about the punch itself. You know, in the world of martial arts, the punch is probably the least effective martial arts technique. We've got a lot of various techniques that can be more useful in a self-defense situation. So why the punch? We work with the punch first because the punch is instinctive. But if it's not done right, it can do you more harm than good. Actually, the reality is, every weekend, probably millions of people on a global stage wind up in the hospital for doing something called boxer's fracture. And that's because when you're making a fist, the bones of these little fingers here come in at a 45-degree angle. And if you're not sure, don't know what you're doing, and you throw a punch like that and make contact, they give easily and they can break. So let's take a look at the proper way to make a fist. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to roll your fingers up, starting from the pinky and going to the index finger. And then you're going to place the thumb on the first and second fingers. Now, contact will be made with the first 2 knuckles. It's almost as if nature intended us to strike with those knuckles, and we use the thumb to reinforce the fingers on impact. Never, under any circumstance, do you make a completely tight fist. The reason is because on impact, that fist has nowhere to go, and you can wind up injuring yourself. Actually, you want to be able to slide a pencil in between your fingers. That way, on impact, your fist will close tightly. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to our basic stance. It's a Cheerio position. In the Cheerio position, we stand like this. We're making our body take complete control, making our mind take complete control of our body at this point. It's going to take some self-control to be able to get this right. Now I'm going to go to something called a June B position. June B means ready. I roll my fingers up. I fully extend my elbows like this. Now, I'm going to pull my arms back. Notice how my fists roll over. So as I push out, at full extension, my fists are going to roll over. Then I'm going to roll them over again to pull them back. That's one of our little-known martial arts secrets. The fact is, when the punch makes impact, just like this shirt, see how the shirt will roll and twist when I grab it? Now, when I'm making contact with the closed fist, the skin does the exact same thing and has a tendency to break, okay? That's a good little self-defense tip, because in a safety situation, most people, once they realize that they're bleeding, they don't want to fool with you anymore. So once again, fingers are going to be rolled up, starting from the pinkies, going to the index finger, and then the thumb holding on to the first 2 fingers. We then pull straight back. We're going to push straight out and then roll over. Now pay close attention to what my forearms are doing. My forearms are rubbing or brushing against the side of my body as my fist goes out and back. Now what that does is it allows me to absorb shock and give the maximum amount of support on impact. A lot of times when you don't do that, the elbow will lead, and on impact, you don't have the support given by the body. Okay, so I'm going to be pushing and pulling at exactly the same time, which is this one will pull back at exactly the same time as this one pushes out, and then I have a roll over at the completion of the extension. Once again, push out, and then roll it over. Now, if you notice, when I'm doing my karate style punches, the idea is to get my elbow to completely lock out, which, by the way, martial arts is defensive in nature. For that reason, martial arts techniques work best when you're under attack. But imagine this, if you will. Imagine that you're on a football field and you're going after a catch, and you don't see me walking down the field with this stick, and then you are trying to make that catch and you run into that stick. It doesn't take an Einstein to realize that you're going to be considerably hurt, may even wind up in the hospital by doing that. So, please have a seat. So, by locking out and twisting, those are two primary sources of energy when you are releasing that punch. And remember, martial arts is defensive, and just like that person trying to catch that football, if someone were to suddenly come at you and you lock it out, it's just like they ran into that extended yard, that extended stick. But that in of itself is not the real impact on how we can increase our power by up to 300%. Pay close attention to what happens now. I'm going to assume something called a defensive stance, which means I'm preparing myself to protect it, preparing myself to protect my body. So I'm going to step back, eliminate my vital areas by turning them sideways. I'm going to put my hands up. Now remember, earlier when we learned how to do the punch, we learned how to chamber. So from here, I'm going to chamber my punching hand. Now, I'm going to turn my heel, my waist, and my shoulder and completely exchange sides. Watch what happens. So, by turning my heel, waist, and shoulder, I completely exchange sides. Not only do I completely exchange sides, but I throw 100% of my body weight into that punch. Now again, most people that are unknowledgeable about self-defense, they tend to strike with just their arms. But when you know what you're doing, you're able to strike with your complete body weight. You're striking with 200 to 300 times the force that you would be if you were striking with just your arms. Now let me give you an exact example. Okay, let's say that this stick represents an opponent. If I were doing just a punch, I could make contact here, which is what most people do. But instead, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to turn my heel, waist, and shoulder, and look how much further past that stick the punch went. That is one of our ways of administering a supercharged, highly impactful, very destructive, and damaging punch. Okay, so that's going to end our session today. And what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate in our next video how to use that punch to stay in shape. Because learning martial arts is a lot like learning a language. It's use it or lose it. But like swimming, when I was a kid, we were told by the older folks that learning to swim is not only a great exercise, it's beneficial if we should happen to fall in some deep water. Martial arts is the exact same thing. So not only can we use martial arts to keep our body healthy and strong, but if we ever have to use it to protect ourselves, we'll have the knowledge for us. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the tape. Hit the like and subscribe button. We'll see you in our workout video.